The following is a presentation of the Championship Racing Network.
Crossed Flags, a racing podcast. It's your midweek fix for racing news and information. Brought to you by the Championship Racing Network. Now let's head trackside to join your hosts, Steve West and Matt Nicholson.
Welcome in. We appreciate you joining us here. As you can tell, back to the home game after a couple of weeks of being in the podcast studio. It'll vary back and forth, just kind of depending on schedules for either myself or Matt or producer Molly or whatever it is. And our big thanks to producer John as well for being available to do this particular episode for us. Coming up a little bit later on, we're going to talk Formula One. We've been talking about how this month being the off month, we mentioned what the teams maybe ought to do on our last show of our previous flagship station and kind of reiterated it. Well, they, being F1 and Formula One, have kind of come up with some ideas that they think might make things a little bit better for people like Max Verstappen. We'll see. Proof will be in the pudding on the Miami Grand Prix the first weekend of the month of May. But first things first, this weekend is Talladega. Our backyard, our home game, if you want to put it that way, for Matt and myself. And I would say home game for both of us, but let's just say it's a weird situation where Matt appears to have been put on some sort of waivers. Not by us. I'll just leave it at that. I would like to comment more on that. I really would, but I'm going to try and be as professional about this as I can, Matt. How's that?
As you wish.
Yeah.
As you wish.
I mean, there's personal feelings. I get it. And I've got them. But, we're playing the media hat thing right now. So you got to kind of try to be professional about that, I guess. But let's just say that we both feel that it is arbitrary, capricious, and makes no sense. How's that? All right. Weather permitting, because as we're looking at it, we're looking at about a 50-50 chance of showers both Saturday and Sunday. And as we record this is Tuesday, so that may change. It may get better. It may get worse as we head towards the weekend. We don't know. But there's something coming up on Sunday in the Jack Links 500 that we haven't seen, I don't think, since the Daytona 500, unless I'm wrong. Correct me on that. We have the opportunity to where somebody's going to have to pack up and go home after qualifying?
Yes, there are 41 entries on the list for the Jack Links 500.
And the last time we saw more than 40 entries was Daytona, or was there something that I'm missing in there?
First event since 2018 that is a non-crown jewel event.
Think about that. That's interesting. The guy who's put us over is not Daniel Dye. But Daniel Dye is the guy that we're speaking of in this particular case, because interestingly enough, this is the guy who got himself in trouble with Cowlick Racing and ended up deciding, after being suspended by both Cowlick and then NASCAR for comments that he made in a podcast, when he got reinstated by NASCAR the very same day, he quit Cowlick Racing. And for reasons that we really didn't get a whole lot of good explanation on. He just decided, I guess, maybe he needed to work on himself. I don't know. But he's found himself a part-time ride. It will get him into the Cup Series if he can qualify. Understand this. The number 78 Live Fast Motorsports, for all intents and purposes, is a full-time ride. They basically go to just about every single race that they can, but they're non-chartered. It's an open car, so there's no guarantee that they're going to get in on anything really other than speed, maybe owner's points, I guess, depending on how things fall.
Have to be speed.
Have to be speed. And in this case, now we're dealing with 41 entries. Again, it means other than the 36 chartered cars, these open cars, they are going to have to get in on speed. We're talking about a Garage 66 entry, used to be MBM Motorsports. NY Racing is coming in and bringing it in. Richard Childress Racing is bringing a third car in. No, it is not, as we had initially thought, maybe Cletus McFarland. As it turns out, it's going to be Jesse Love. And honestly, I can't remember the one that Beard Motorsports. They're coming in as well. I got to admit, I'm intrigued by the fact that we do have these cars coming in. I think it's great. The question is, who do you think is the one that's going home?
If it rains and qualifying is washed on Saturday, unfortunately, it'll be the 62 car going home because it technically missed the Daytona 500 from the disqualification after the duels.
Okay.
Anthony Alfredo.
And therefore, you got that situation where the dynamics that they use when it comes to the numbers, it just won't work out for Beard in that case.
Right. But if they do get full round, all qualifying in, and round one is fully completed, I'm going to have to say it's going to be between the ones going home. It's going to be between the 44 that Joey Gase is going to drive and the 66 that surprisingly Chad Fincham is going to drive.
That was the one that I looked at and thought to myself, that might be leader in the clubhouse is actually probably the wrong phrase to use there. And it's no disrespect necessarily to Fincham and his driving ability, or truth be told, Garage 66, but the car has not really been the best. Chad Fincham is inexperienced. Now, how much experience do you need to put your foot to the floor and hold it around a 2.66 mile tri-oval? But at the same time, you got to have the horse to be able to go around that track fast enough. And I don't know as we've seen enough speed out of that 66 car.
Honestly, no. The only reason it got in the 500 because of, a last lap wreck, and it was able to race its way in.
Right.
But with raw speed, the two cars that are firmly in danger, it's going to be between who the last car is to get in. It'll be between Joey Gase and Chad Fincham.
Okay. Live Fast builds a decently fast car, and let's face it, both the 33 and the 62 are both Richard Childress Racing prepared cars for all intents and purposes. One under the Richard Childress Racing banner, the 33 with Jesse Love, and then the 62 of Beard Motorsports. We know what kind of bullets they bring. So yeah, if they get out on the track on Saturday, I would be pretty confident that unless something really, really weird happened during that lap, they're both going to be in.
Should.
So this Daniel Dye situation, real quick, and we'll talk about it a little bit more on Saturday's big show, which will explain that here in a minute. The Daniel Dye situation is very odd. Live Fast Motorsports, of all the teams that would take a flyer on him, not really all that surprising that it would be Live Fast, but they're going to run him at Pocono. They're going to run him at the regular season finale at Daytona, and then they're going to run him again when we come back to to Talladega in late October. Why is Live Fast going with Daniel Dye, though? That's the question.
Money
speaks.
That's it. Because he's got Champion Container Services that's sponsored him for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
They're putting up money to be able to get on the car.
Okay.
So that's what got him the ride. So, I guess you can make stupid, ridiculous, homosexual related comments and make fun of people, and you get promoted, go to Cup.
I guess.
Nothing against BJ McLeod, but
it's an interesting choice.
I secretly hope Daniel Dye is the one that goes home.
It might happen. It's Live Fast has not ever been mistaken for one of those cars. Despite the name, it's never been mistaken for one of those cars that's going to be, even at a Talladega or a Daytona, battling for a win.
True.
Sorry to say, but truth is sometimes very, very painful. There's really very little in looking ahead here, in thinking about Pocono. To me, Pocono doesn't seem a danger of having this situation that we're seeing this weekend here at Talladega, where you're going to get more than 40 cars on the entry list.
In regards to what's left, the only ones that I can see that happening is Daytona and Talladega. Last two. Pocono, no.
Yeah, I don't see it at Pocono. I'm not sure it would happen in the summer race at Daytona. It might. I would think probably the return to Talladega might be the bigger possibility because you're in the playoffs. You're definitely in a situation where, as we've seen the TV schedule before, NBC's running this race as opposed to, it's going to be on cable somewhere on the regular season finale. I think that's TNT's portion, isn't it?
No, the regular season finale is USA
Network. So that either way, TNT, USA, it's cable. Talladega in October is going to be on the main network like it will be this Sunday. It's going to be on Fox this Sunday. It'll be on NBC when they return in late October. Maybe that one. And it's only because of the visibility of being on network television.
Right.
We'll see. Right. We'll see whether Daniel Dye has figured it out, and I'm sure it's going to be a subject that will be brought up if he finds himself in front of a microphone and or camera from either a motor racing network or Fox. And I'm sure it'll be a topic of conversation. We'll see what happens with it. Then that brings us to Formula One, and I printed this out just so that I made sure that I knew what it was we were talking about. We could go off into the weeds and get into all these technical things that they're talking about, but I'm going to kind of give an overview here. And this group met officially yesterday, Monday. We're, again, recording Tuesday. Input came down from the Formula One management group, the FIA, Formula One, and team principals from all 11 F1 teams. What they're going to do is they're going to drop the energy harvesting that the hybrid unit can do during qualifying, which is going to slow the car some. They won't have quite the same power to pull from it full throttle. Now, we kind of talked about this during the big show last Saturday in that qualifying in Formula One, whether it's Q3, Q2, Q1, doesn't matter. We're going to throw the whole group out there at one time. So you could technically, in Q1, have all 22 cars out on the track all at the same time. And that's chaos. It's like the race. So you could technically have that chaos. And then the number dwindles down to Q3 where you got the fastest 10. But otherwise, I'm not really so certain what slowing them down in qualifying is going to do. Further, as they go through, they say the hybrid system has been limited down from 350 kilowatts to 250 kilowatts for all parts of the lap, save for what we used to call the DRS zones, where you could push and the flap would open up on the wing at the driver's command. And what they're hoping to do is reduce some of the closing speed around corners, around curves. And you think about it, it's kind of the situation that Ollie Behrman got into in Japan, and producer John's going to show you the picture of the car after the fact when it was put on the flatbed. And you think about what happened to Ollie Behrman's car. I mean, he hit up against that retaining wall flush up against the side, and that car was toast. He crawled out of the car. He was limping. He had at least one sore leg. His body was probably sore for the next few days afterward with that kind of hit. You said the G's were in excess of 50?
Yes.
So you do that kind of a stop flush against the side of the car, that's going to hurt because your body's not meant to do that. But they're, like I said, they're hoping that being able to do that will reduce somewhat the closing speed to where if you have to make an evasive maneuver, a crash like that won't be quite as bad. The truth of the matter, though, is that it seems like they're not 100% looking at the big picture here. It seems like they're almost trying to put a Band-Aid on what would be a gaping wound.
Yeah, it's it needs a little bit more than a Band-Aid, if you ask me.
And I don't know.
Probably needs a whole roll of gauze.
I don't know if we're ever going to get it back to perfect. The only thing I think that would satisfy somebody like, say, Max Verstappen is if we went back to last year's cars. They're not going to do that. They still want to make these cars a little bit smaller, a little bit shorter from front to back, and a little bit narrower from side to side. They want to get back to being able to more comfortably pass at the tighter courses. Think Monaco. So they're going to continue, I think, over the course of time, making these cars smaller as we go along. I'm still a little curious as to why these engine regulations that they put into effect for this year, though, how the heck did they settle on a 50-50 split between the internal combustion engine and the hybrid system? That still doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me.
It really doesn't. It should have been more of a split with like IndyCar's got.
Yeah.
That's a good split.
Well, and the split that they had last year, nobody was complaining about that. So I'm not sure why they changed the differential there. I do know that they're running synthetic race fuel this year, so they're trying to be greener. But if the synthetic race fuel works just as well as regular dinosaur out of the ground race fuel does, why are we messing with the percentages as to how the power output is put out? Because to me, that's the bigger problem.
There's a lot of things that Formula One makes me question.
That's true. Yeah, got a point there. And I am on record as saying this. I mean, if there is a problem, and apparently there is for a few drivers, the strange thing is there are other drivers that feel like it's no problem whatsoever. 7-time champion Lewis Hamilton says he thinks the cars are great. So, but we're going on the presumption that yes, this is a problem for whatever purpose, and for the purpose of this argument. And it's got to be the percentage situation. And they, to me, have not dealt with that in any way, shape, or form with these new regulations. All they're doing is just messing with the power output. And I guess that'll mess with the overall top speed. And it might do what they're hoping to do, which is decrease the disparity in closing speed in a situation like what we saw with Ollie Behrman in Japan. But what other problems might it cause? Because as the old saying goes, every action brings an equal and opposite reaction.
That is true. That is true. But, from a problem standpoint, it's tough to say because this entire engine package that they've had has been like literally a box of chocolates. You don't know what you're going to get.
Yeah. Thank you, Forrest. Now, I think that there's another aspect to this, though, in the fact that, yeah, we were gifted by the Iran war this unexpected month off to where they could work on it and not have to try and figure it out while they were racing. But Miami's looming very large on the calendar. We get past this weekend, they've got to be down in Miami getting ready to race the Miami GP. They will get another month off in August. That's the one that was already scheduled. I'm wondering if maybe there's the thought that they're going to do a little more tweaking in that month. And then, of course, make possibly bigger changes once we get to the off season if they feel that it is necessary.
They might.
Yeah.
That is possible.
Doing it step by step. In other words, instead of trying to throw everything and the kitchen sink at it and make the teams figure it out by the first weekend of May, which might be a little bit much when you're in season and you've got all these cars and all these engines and everything that you got to have built and ready to go already set.
Yep. Absolutely.
So that's what I'm thinking. Maybe this is a step-by-step process. Question is whether this step goes far enough to satisfy them until the next step can be taken.
Right.
All right. We shall see. Fairly limited slate this weekend when it comes to racing, but the NHRA is back in action. They're going to be running 4 wide for the first time this year. ZMAX Dragway up in Concord, North Carolina. And as far as the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series and the Cup Series, they're right here in our backyard, as we mentioned, in Talladega. Kind of strange that we're not getting a big racing weekend, but that's coming. That's coming. It's coming very, very soon, so be prepared for that. And as far as the big show this weekend is concerned, usually on Talladega weekends, we have not done a show. That's changing because our new flagship station. So what we're going to do is we're going to do whatever Matt and I need to do on Friday out at Talladega. And then that afternoon/evening, we're headed to our flagship radio station. We're going to pre-record the show. So there will be a new original show, but we're not going to be able to comment via YouTube. We're not going to be able to take phone calls just this particular 1 week. But we will have original material coming up this Saturday, live, 9 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Central Time. Sound like a plan, Matt?
Let's do it.
All right. I'll be working out all the details between now and then. And in the meantime, Matt, myself, and our good buddies Grady and Matt Coulter have some work to do as well to get everything set up. And you will hear all four of those voices that I just mentioned, including Matt's, over the PA system at Talladega Superspeedway if you're coming out there this weekend. Tickets are still available for Saturday. I haven't heard that they're sold out for Sunday yet, so there may still be a few as well. So if you get the opportunity and you're in the area, come on out. Check us out at Talladega Superspeedway. Thank you very much for joining us on this edition of Cross Flags. Like, subscribe, share right down there below. We appreciate all the support and all the help that you guys have given us through all the changes that we've made this year. And those changes continue as it turns out. So thanks to producer Molly for her help, our producer John in our background here. Thank you for him. On behalf of Matt Nicholson and myself, Steve West, thank you for checking out this edition of Cross Flags, and we'll talk to you Saturday morning.
You've been listening to Crossed Flags, a racing podcast. For more content like this, subscribe to CRN Live on YouTube, and you'll be set to catch the 2-hour live show every Saturday morning at 9 Eastern, 8 Central.
This has been a presentation of the Championship Racing Network.